The blue flames of Nexus Prime burned against the black of space. Admiral Kong Daeho watched the recordings with growing anger. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were now smoking ruins. The peaceful Altarian people who once filled those streets were gone. Ambassador Yeltar pressed his webbed hands against the communication console. His gills fluttered with each desperate breath. Around him, the underground bunker shook as another orbital strike hit the surface. The sounds of dying echoed through the metal corridors. To any who received this message, Yeltar spoke into the transmitter. His voice was weak but clear. We are the coalition of peaceful worlds. We are dying. The Vextai Empire shows no mercy to our people. They kill our children. They burn our homes. They take our people as slaves. The bunker shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling. Yeltar could hear the screams of the wounded in the medical bay. Soon, even this last safe place would be found. Please, he continued, anyone who can hear this, we have no weapons strong enough. We have no soldiers fierce enough. Our children hide in the dark while monsters hunt them. If there is anyone out there who can help us, please come. We are running out of time. The signal traveled through space at the speed of light. It passed dead worlds where the Vextai had already finished their work. It moved through empty systems where coalition fleets once patrolled. The message carried the last hopes of dying civilizations. 3 weeks later, the signal reached Earth. Lieutenant Kim Minjun was working the night shift at Seoul Deep Space Station. The facility sat high in the Korean mountains. Its massive dishes pointed toward the stars. Most nights were quiet. Earth was still new to space travel. They had only been listening to the galaxy for 5 years. The signal came through on emergency frequencies. Kim put on his headphones and listened. What he heard made his blood run cold. The translation software worked slowly, but the meaning was clear. Entire species were being murdered. Kim called his supervisor immediately. Within an hour, the message was playing in government buildings across Earth. Within 6 hours, it reached Admiral Kong Daeho at Earth Defense Command. Kong was a veteran of the resource wars. He had fought in Korea, Japan, and the Pacific Islands. When the climate changed and nations fought over water and food, he knew what desperate people sounded like. He knew what evil looked like when it showed its face. How many ships can we put together? Kong asked his staff. Captain Park Suman stepped forward. She commanded the dreadnought Seoul's Vengeance, the most powerful warship Earth had ever built. 50 ships, sir, the entire fleet. But these aliens might be more advanced than us. We don't know what we're flying into. We know exactly what we're flying into, Kong replied. We're flying into a war against monsters who kill children. Ha! Long to prepare. 72 hours if we push everything. General Lee Hyun-woo raised his hand. Sir, my Marines are ready. 200,000 soldiers want to volunteer for this mission. They've all heard the message. Kong nodded. The message had played on every news channel on Earth. People were angry. Humans had their own dark history, but they had learned from it. The idea of species-wide genocide made their blood boil. Send the message to all ship commanders, Kong ordered. We launch in 3 days. Tell them we're going to answer that distress call. Tell them we're going to show these Vextai what happens when they mess with innocent people. As the orders went out across Earth's military bases, engineers worked around the clock. Ships were loaded with weapons and supplies. Marines practiced boarding actions. Pilots trained for space combat they had never seen before. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Yeltar huddled with the last survivors of his people. The bunker's power was failing. The Vextai ground troops were getting closer. Children cried in the darkness while their parents tried to stay hopeful. None of them knew that help was coming. None of them knew that on a distant world called Earth, 200,000 warriors were preparing for war. None of them knew that humans had heard their cry for help. The Earth fleet would arrive in 2 weeks. But first, they had to survive that long. The Earth fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus system. 50 ships appeared in perfect formation, like hunters emerging from the darkness. Admiral Kong Daeho stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the tactical display. What he saw made his jaw clench with anger. 3 worlds burned in the distance. Orbital platforms fired down at the planets below, turning cities into glass and ash. The readings showed millions of life signs disappearing by the hour. The genocide was happening right in front of them. Sir, we're receiving a weak signal from The third planet communications officer Jung reported. It's coming from underground. Put it through, Kong ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was alien, but the translation was clear. Unknown ships, please identify yourselves. Are you coalition forces? We are dying down here. The Vexti are everywhere. Dr. Kim, Minjin stepped forward. As Earth's first xenobiologist, he had trained for this moment his entire career. This is Dr. Kim of the Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call. We are here to help you. Silence filled the channel for several seconds. Then the alien voice returned, filled with confusion. Earth, we have no records of your species. In coalition databases, what type of beings are you? We are humans. We come from a world called Earth. We heard your call for help and we came as fast as we could. Humans, the alien repeated. Please send us your biological data. We need to know what kind of species you are. Kim looked at Admiral Kang, who nodded. The data package was sent immediately. The response came back within minutes, and this time, the alien voice was filled with shock. By the ancient stars, the alien whispered, your gravity is 3 times ours. Your atmospheric pressure would crush most coalition species. Your world temperature ranges would kill us. You come from a death world. Captain Park Soman smiled grimly. Tell them what that means for the Vexti. Meanwhile, on the massive Vexti command ship, War Leader Cruzen studied the new arrivals with interest. The ships were smaller than his dreadnoughts, but their armor looked incredibly thick. Their weapon signatures were different from anything in coalition databases. Send a probe force. Cruzen ordered his lieutenant, 3 destroyers and a cruiser. Let's see what these newcomers are made of. The Vexti ships moved forward in standard attack formation. They had used these same tactics to destroy 100 coalition fleets. Cruzen expected another easy victory. Dock Commander Cho Yoonji was leading the forward fighter screen when the enemy ships appeared on her sensors. All pilots, this is Phoenix Leader. We have incoming hostiles. 4 ships moving to engage. Phoenix Leader, this is Admiral Kong. You are weapons free. Show them what Earth pilots can do. The space battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The human fighters moved like nothing the Vexti had ever seen. They twisted and turned in patterns that should have killed their pilots from the acceleration forces. Their weapons fired with precision that seemed impossible. The Vexti probe force was completely destroyed. Not a single human fighter was even damaged on the surface of Nexus Prime. Ambassador Yelter and his surviving people watched the battle through their sensors. What kind of warriors are these humans? One of them asked. Dr. Kim's voice came through the communication link. We are apex predators from a death world. We evolved by hunting and being hunted by creatures that would terrify most species. War is what we do when peace fails. War Leader Cruzen stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His probe force had been elite units with years of combat experience. They had been destroyed by fighters that moved like living things. A new signal came through on the emergency channel. It was the human admiral speaking directly to him. This is Admiral Kong Daeho of the Earth Defense Force. You have committed acts of genocide against innocent civilizations. Your forces are murdering children and destroying entire species. Stop this madness now and surrender, or we will stop you ourselves. Cruzen laughed at the transmission. One small fleet thought. They could threaten the mighty Vexti Empire. He would show these Deathworlders what real power looked like. Target the Coalition hospital ship, he ordered. Show these humans what happens to those who threaten us. The hospital ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Thousands of wounded Coalition civilians died in an instant. Admiral Kong watched the destruction with cold fury in his eyes. He had given the enemy a chance to surrender. They had chosen to murder innocents instead. All ships, he said into the fleet communications. You have seen what these monsters do to helpless victims. They chose this path, weapons free. Show them what Deathworlders do to genocidal maniacs. The Battle of Nexus Prime began with thunder that shook the stars themselves. Captain Park So-min stood on the bridge of Soul's Vengeance as her dreadnought led the human battle line forward. Around her, 49 other Earth ships moved in. Perfect coordination, their weapons charging with deadly purpose. Enemy fleet is moving to intercept, reported Lieutenant O from the tactical station. 200 Vex-style ships, including 12 heavy cruisers. Park smiled coldly. The Vex-style thought numbers would win this fight. They were about to learn why humans had conquered their own death world through pure determination and superior tactics. All ships. This is Soul's vengeance. Execute attack pattern Delta. Show them how Earth fights. The human fleet split into 3 groups, each moving in a different direction. The Vex-style commander tried to follow the main force, but suddenly found enemy ships attacking from above and below. It was a tactic they had never seen before. War Leader Cruzen watched in confusion as his battle line began to crumble. How were they coordinating so perfectly? Our ships can barely keep formation in battle. His tactical officer checked the readings twice before answering. Sir, their reaction times are impossible. Their pilots are making decisions faster than our computers can track them. The first exchange of fire lit up space like a newborn star. Vex-style plasma beams struck human armor and barely left scratches. The return fire from Earth weapons tore through enemy shields like paper through wind. Soul's vengeance engaged 3 Vex-style cruisers at once. Captain Park ordered evasive maneuvers that pushed her crew to their limits. The ship twisted and rolled in patterns that would have liquefied most alien crews from the acceleration forces. But humans had evolved under crushing gravity. Their bodies could handle stress that would kill other species. Direct hit on their command section, reported Weapons Officer Bay. Enemy ship is breaking apart. The second cruiser tried to ram Soul's vengeance in desperation. Park ordered full reverse engines and opened fire with every weapon she had. The enemy ship exploded before it could complete its suicide run. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human ships systematically destroyed their opponents. The Earth vessels were built to survive the crushing gravity and violent storms of their home world. Vex-style weapons that could crack coalition hulls bounced harmlessly off human armor. But the space battle was only part of the story. Deep in Vex-style territory, Captain Lim Tae-young guided his stealth ship, Ghost of Buzan, through enemy defenses. His mission was to capture intelligence and rescue coalition prisoners. Thermal sensors show a prison camp on the second moon, reported his navigator. Readings indicate thousands of life forms being held there. Lim activated the ship's cloaking system. Ghost of Busan disappeared from all sensors as it approached the moon's surface. The stealth technology was based on Earth's submarine warfare tactics, adapted for space combat. The landing was silent and perfect. Major Park Ji-hoon led 20 Marines out of the ship and toward the prison camp. They moved through the alien landscape like hunting wolves, each step calculated and silent. The Vex-style guards never saw them coming. Human soldiers, trained in Earth's brutal military academies, struck with precision and speed. The camp was liberated in 12 minutes without a single coalition casualty. "My God," whispered one of the rescued aliens as he watched the human Marines work. "You fight like demons from the deepest nightmares." Major Park removed his helmet and smiled. "We fight like humans. That's usually enough." Back in space, the main battle was reaching its climax. Fleet Commander Vexron had arrived with reinforcements, bringing the enemy force to over 400 ships. He was confident that superior numbers would finally overwhelm the mysterious humans. "All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship," Vexron ordered. "Destroy their command structure, and they will fall apart." 50 Vex-style ships opened fire on Soul's vengeance simultaneously. The barrage was enough to destroy a small moon. When the energy beams faded, Captain Park's ship was still there, its armor glowing but intact. "Impossible," Vexron muttered. "Nothing can survive that much punishment." "Sir," his tactical officer reported, with fear in his voice, "their ship is accelerating directly toward us. They're not even trying to evade." Soul's vengeance charged straight through the enemy formation like an armored battering ram. Its weapons fired continuously, destroying every ship in its path. Captain Park had turned her dreadnought into a weapon of pure destruction. "This is madness," Vexron said. "No sane species fights like this." Dr. Kim Min-chun's voice came over the emergency communication channel, broadcasting to all ships in the system. "You don't understand what you're fighting. Humans evolved as pack hunters on a world that tried to kill us every day. We survived by being more dangerous than everything else on our planet. You started a war with apex predators. This is what happens when you threaten our pack. On the surface of Nexus Prime, General Lee Hyen-Woo led the ground assault. 10,000 human Marines landed in dropships, while Vextai orbital defenses tried desperately to stop them. The humans moved like a single organism, each unit supporting the others in perfect coordination. Ambassador Yeltar and his surviving people watched in amazement as human soldiers stormed through Vextai positions. The aliens moved with a speed and violence that defied belief. They communicated without words and fought without fear. They're saving everyone, Yeltar reported to the underground bunker. The humans are risking their lives to rescue people they've never met, from species they didn't know existed yesterday. One of the rescued Coalition children, a young Altarian female, approached General Lee after the battle. She was too young to speak, but she placed her small webbed hand on his armored glove in a gesture of gratitude. Lee knelt down to her level and spoke gently. "You're safe now, little one. The monsters can't hurt you anymore." In space, the Vextai fleet was in full retreat. Over half their ships had been destroyed or disabled. Their prisoners were being liberated. Their ground forces were surrendering or fleeing. Fleet Commander Vexran stared at his tactical display in horror. The human fleet had suffered minimal casualties while completely destroying his forces. These weren't just warriors, they were something far more dangerous. "Send an emergency message to the Empire," he ordered. "Tell them we've encountered something new, something terrible. These humans fight like nothing we've ever seen. They coordinate like a hive mind, but think like individual predators. They show mercy to innocents, but no quarter to enemies." War leader cruising, his command ship crippled and drifting, watched human rescue ships moving to help Vextai survivors. Even after the brutal battle, the humans were saving enemy wounded. "What kind of species are you?" he transmitted to Admiral Kong. The human admiral's response was cold and final. "We are the species that answers distress calls. We are the species that protects the innocent. And we are the species that will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy if you ever threaten peaceful worlds again." As the last Vextai ships limped away from Nexus Prime, the rescued Coalition civilians emerged from their bunkers to find human soldiers distributing food and medical supplies. The contrast was striking. These same warriors who had just fought with terrifying violence were now gently caring for alien children. The Battle of Nexus Prime was over, but the war for the galaxy's freedom had just begun. 3 days after the Battle of Nexus Prime, Admiral Kung Daeho stood in the command center surrounded by holographic displays, showing the true horror of Vextai expansion. Captain Oh-Sung-ho had worked without sleep to gather intelligence from captured enemy databases. What they found changed everything. 23 species completely extinct, Oh reported, his voice heavy with exhaustion and anger. 15 worlds turned into lifeless rocks. The Vextai didn't just conquer these civilizations, they erased them from existence. The holographic map showed red zones spreading across an entire spiral arm of the galaxy. Each red dot represented a dead world. Each number represented millions of murdered innocents. The scale of genocide was beyond anything humans had imagined possible. Dr. Kim Minjon studied biological records from the destroyed worlds. Some of these species were completely peaceful. They had no weapons, no armies. The Vextai killed them simply because they existed. Ambassador Yeltar entered the command center with other Coalition survivors. The aquatic alien moved slowly, still recovering from weeks of hiding underground, but his eyes burned with desperate hope. "Admiral Kang," Yeltar said, "we have found the locations of 17 slave camps scattered across Vextai territory. Millions of our people are still alive, working in their mines and factories. We beg you to help us free them." Commander Bayuna stepped forward from where she had been coordinating relief efforts on Nexus Prime. "Sir, I've been working with the civilian survivors. The stories they tell. Children separated from parents, families broken apart. The Vextai used psychological torture as much as physical." Kong looked at the faces around him. These were professional soldiers who had seen combat across Earth's conflicts. But the systematic nature of Vextai cruelty had awakened something primal in human psychology. The same instincts that made humans protect their young now extended to all innocent life. Captain Park Kong called to his fleet commander. "Split our forces. Half stay here to protect the liberated worlds and continue rescue operations. I'm taking the other half deep into Vextai space." Park Soman studied the tactical displays. "Sir, that's extremely dangerous. We'll be operating far from any support, surrounded by enemy territory." "Good," Kong replied. "That's exactly where we need to be. These monsters think they're safe in their home systems. Time to teach them that nowhere is safe when you commit genocide." The strategic session continued for hours as human officers planned the most audacious military campaign in galactic history. They would take 25 ships deep into enemy territory, moving from system to system, destroying military bases and liberating prison camps. Meanwhile, in the heart of the Vextai Empire, Emperor Vectul received the emergency transmission from Fleet Commander Vextron. The massive reptilian ruler studied the battle recordings with growing concern. "These humans destroyed 200 of our ships with 50 of theirs," Vectul hissed. "How is this possible?" "Your Imperial Majesty," his military advisor explained. "They fight unlike any species we have encountered. Their tactics are completely foreign to us. They coordinate perfectly but adapt instantly. They seem to know what we will do before we do it." Vectul's claws scraped against his throne. The Vextai Empire had conquered 47 star systems through superior technology and ruthless determination. No species had ever seriously challenged their expansion. "Mobilize everything," the Emperor commanded. "Every ship, every soldier. These humans want war. We will give them annihilation." Orders went out across the Empire. Shipyards that had been building colony vessels switched to producing warships. Garrison forces were recalled from occupied worlds. The entire Vextai military machine began moving toward Coalition space. But the Emperor made a critical error. He assumed the humans would wait in Coalition territory for his attack. He had no idea that human forces were already moving toward his homeworld. Admiral Kong's strike force entered hyperspace just as Vextai reinforcements were leaving their home systems. The two fleets passed each other in the void between stars, neither knowing how close they came to meeting. The first target was a mining world where Coalition prisoners worked in underground facilities. Captain Lim Taeyong's Ghost of Busan approached the planet under full stealth while the main fleet waited at the system's edge. Thermal imaging shows massive underground complexes, reported the ship's scanner operator. Readings indicate approximately 50,000 life forms, mostly Coalition species. Major Park Ji-hoon prepared his Marines for another liberation mission, but this time they faced a different challenge. The prison camps were buried deep underground, heavily guarded, and rigged with explosives that would kill all prisoners if a rescue was attempted. "Sir," one of his sergeants asked, "how do we get past the explosive charges?" Park smiled grimly. "We don't disable them. We make sure the guards can't trigger them." The assault began at exactly midnight local time. Human Marines used mining equipment to create new tunnels that bypassed the main entrances. They moved through solid rock like water through pipes, their enhanced equipment cutting through obstacles that would stop most armies. The Vextai guards never realized they were under attack until human soldiers appeared behind them in corridors. That should have been impossible to reach. The liberation took 4 hours and resulted in 0 prisoner casualties. Similar operations played out across 6 different systems. Human forces struck like lightning, freeing captives and destroying military installations before disappearing back into hyperspace. The Vextai military command struggled to track an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. Dr. Kim In-jun documented the psychological changes occurring in human personnel. Soldiers who had joined the fleet for exploration were now driven by something deeper than duty. The concept of total war, something the peaceful coalition had never developed, became humanity's answer to systematic genocide. "We're not just fighting an enemy," one Marine told Kim during an interview. "We're hunting predators. Every camp we liberate, every atrocity we uncover makes it more personal. These aren't soldiers we're fighting. They're monsters that need to be stopped permanently." The turning point came when Admiral Hong's forces discovered a world where the Vexed Eye had experimented on Coalition children. The research facility contained evidence of biological weapons testing, psychological torture, and surgical procedures performed without anesthesia on sentient beings. General Li Heianwu found himself standing in a laboratory filled with empty cages designed to hold young aliens. The walls were covered with charts tracking pain responses in different species. The cold scientific approach to cruelty was more disturbing than random violence. "Sir," one of his officers reported, "we've found the research data. They were trying to develop weapons specifically designed to cause maximum suffering before death." Lee stared at the evidence for a long moment before activating his communicator. "Admiral, we found something here that changes the nature of this war. This isn't just conquest or even genocide. This is systematic cruelty designed to cause the maximum possible suffering." Khan's response was immediate and final. "Understood, General. New mission parameters. We're no longer just liberating prisoners and destroying military targets. We're ending the Vexed Eye Empire permanently." The word spread through the human fleet like wildfire. Every soldier, every pilot, every officer now understood that they weren't just fighting a war. They were exterminating a threat to all sentient life in the galaxy. Captain Osunko's intelligence reports confirmed what everyone now suspected. The Vexed Eye Empire's entire culture was built around causing suffering. Their religion worshipped pain. Their art celebrated death. Their science existed solely to develop new methods of torture. "They're not just evil," O reported to the command staff. "Evil implies choice. This species is fundamentally incompatible with the existence of other life forms. As long as they exist, innocent beings will suffer and die." As the humans strike, force prepared to move deeper into Vexed Eye territory. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures approaching Coalition space. The Emperor's main fleet was moving to destroy humanity's home base. But Admiral Song Wujin was waiting for them with Earth's reserve fleet. 200 additional ships had been quietly moved into position while the Vexed Eye focused on the human raiders. The final battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin on two fronts. In Coalition space, humanity's defensive forces would face the largest alien armada ever assembled. Deep in enemy territory, Admiral Kong's raiders would strike at the heart of the Vexed Eye homeworld. The hunt had become an extermination campaign, and humanity intended to finish what the Vexed Eye had started. The final battle for the galaxy began with the largest space armada in recorded history dropping out of hyperspace near Coalition territory. Emperor Vectul commanded 10,000 Vexed Eye warships carrying 50 million soldiers. The massive fleet stretched across space like a metallic plague, ready to destroy everything in its path. Admiral Song Wujin waited for them with Earth's reserve fleet. 200 human ships hung in perfect formation, dwarfed by the approaching enemy armada. To any observer, it looked like certain annihilation for the defenders. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Jung from the flagship Inchin's Pride, "the enemy is transmitting surrender demands. They want us to stand down and submit to execution." Song smiled coldly. "Send our response. Tell them that humans don't surrender to monsters. Tell them to prepare for extinction." Emperor Vectul received a human message with amusement. These Deathworlders had courage, but courage meant nothing against overwhelming force. He ordered his fleet to advance in the traditional Vexed Eye attack formation that had conquered dozens of worlds. The space battle that followed would be remembered as the greatest military disaster in galactic history. But not for the reasons Vectul expected. The human fleet moved like a single living organism. Ships that should have been destroyed by concentrated fire simply weren't there when the enemy weapons arrived. Formations that looked chaotic to alien eyes revealed themselves as perfectly coordinated death traps. Captain Nam Hyjin commanded the heavy cruiser, Bizen's Hammer, in the center of the human formation. Her ship alone engaged 12 Vexed Eye destroyers simultaneously, using evasive patterns that pushed her crew to their biological limit. "Enemy fire incoming," her tactical officer reported. "Impact in 3 seconds. Emergency turn. Full power to engines." Nam ordered her ship twisted through space in a maneuver that would have liquefied most alien crews. The Vextai plasma beams passed harmlessly through empty space where Buzin's hammer had been moments before. The return fire was devastating. Human weapons, designed to function in Earth's violent magnetic storms, tore through Vextai shields like tissue paper. Enemy ships that had seemed invincible exploded in chains of brilliant destruction across the battlefield. Similar scenes played out as human tactical superiority overwhelmed numerical advantage. The Vextai had brought an army to fight a natural disaster. Meanwhile, deep in enemy territory, Admiral Kungdeho's strike force approached the Vextai homeworld. The planet hung in space like a diseased jewel, its surface covered with massive cities built from the bones of conquered species. Orbital defenses are extensive, reported Captain Park Soman from Soul's Vengeance. They have defense platforms everywhere. This is going to be the hardest fight yet. General Li Haiyan-Wu studied the tactical displays from the assault transport. Sir, intelligence shows the planet's surface is covered with monuments to their victims. They built their capital on the graves of extinct species. Kong felt cold fury settle in his chest. The Vextai hadn't just committed genocide. They celebrated it. They turned suffering into art and made museums from the bones of children. All ships he transmitted to his fleet. You've seen what these monsters do to innocent life. You've seen their torture chambers and their death camps. Today we end this forever. Today we make sure they can never hurt anyone again. The assault on the Vextai homeworld began with precision orbital strikes. Human ships moved through the defense grid like sharks through a school of fish, their weapons systematically destroying military installations and government buildings. Captain Lim Tae-young's Ghost of Busan led a squadron of stealth ships to the planet's surface. Their mission was to locate and neutralize the Vextai leadership before they could activate planet-killing weapons. The surface battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human Marines, bred on a death world and trained in Earth's brutal military academies, moved through Vextai cities like an unstoppable force of nature. Major Park Ji-hoon led his assault teams through the capital's government district. Vextai defenders, trained to intimidate helpless civilians, crumbled before warriors who had evolved to hunt apex predators. Resistance is collapsing everywhere, Park reported to General Lee. They're not soldiers. They're bullies who've never faced real opposition. The turning point came when human forces reached the Imperial Palace. Emperor Vectul, faced with the destruction of everything he had built, made a final desperate decision. He activated the Empire's ultimate weapon, a device designed to destabilize nearby stars and destroy entire solar systems. Captain Park Soman detected the energy buildup from orbit. Admiral, massive power surge from the palace. Whatever they're doing down there could kill billions of people across multiple systems. All units, emergency assault on the palace. Kong ordered, stop them now. The race against galactic annihilation lasted 17 minutes. Human soldiers fought through layers of desperate defenders while scientists worked frantically to understand alien technology. The weapon was designed to trigger solar flares that would sterilize a dozen inhabited worlds. General Lee reached the control chamber with 3 minutes remaining on the countdown. Emperor Vectul stood before the activation console, his claws poised over the final sequence. You cannot stop the glory of pain, the Emperor hissed. If we cannot rule, then everything dies with us. Lee raised his weapon. That's the difference. Between us and you, we came here to save people. You want to murder them? Guess which one wins? The shot echoed through the chamber. Emperor Vectul fell, his claws missing the activation key by centimeters. The doomsday weapon powered down as human technicians disabled its control systems. Back in Coalition space, the great battle was reaching its conclusion. The Vextai Armada, once 10,000 ships strong, was reduced to scattered survivors, fleeing through hyperspace. Admiral Song's reserve fleet had suffered minimal casualties while achieving complete victory. The final Vextai resistance collapsed within hours of their Emperor's death. Garrison forces across the Empire surrendered or abandoned their posts. The slave camps were liberated by human Marines who found millions of Coalition survivors. Dr. Kim Minjin stood in the ruins of the Imperial Palace, documenting artifacts that revealed the true scope of Vextai cruelty. Museums filled with the skulls of alien children, libraries containing detailed records of torture techniques, art galleries displaying sculptures made from the bones of extinct species. They weren't just evil, Kim reported to Admiral Kang. Their entire civilization was built around causing maximum suffering to other life forms. Every aspect of their culture celebrated death and pain. 3 weeks after the final battle, the galaxy began to heal. Coalition worlds were rebuilt with human assistance. Refugee camps were transformed into new settlements. The liberated slave populations were reunited with their families. Ambassador Yeltar stood on the observation deck of a human hospital ship, watching construction crews rebuild his home world. Around him, alien children played with human soldiers who had risked everything to save them. "Your species answered our call for help," Yeltar said to Dr. Kim, "but you gave us something more than rescue. You gave us hope that good can triumph over evil." Kim nodded, watching a human medic treat an injured alien child with the same care he would show his own daughter. "That's what we do. We protect those who can't protect themselves." The memorial to the genocide victims was built on Nexus Prime, where the war had begun. It bore a simple inscription in the languages of every known species. "By Earth." Admiral Kong stood before the memorial on its dedication day, surrounded by representatives from across the galaxy. The Vextai Empire was gone, their surviving populations scattered to distant worlds under coalition supervision. The threat they represented had been permanently eliminated. "Today we remember not just the victims," Kong spoke to the assembled crowd, "but the promise we make to the future. No species will ever again face genocide while humanity draws breath. We came from the darkness between stars to answer your call for help. We will always answer." In the years that followed, human tactical doctrine became the foundation of galactic defense forces. The Coalition, once passive and helpless, learned to fight for their survival. The galaxy had learned that peace could only be preserved by those willing to wage war against evil. The SOS signal that had started everything was replaced by a new broadcast. From Earth to the furthest reaches of space, a simple message played on all frequencies. "This is Earth Defense Command. If you are in danger, we will come. If you face extinction, we will fight. If monsters threaten your children, we will hunt them to the ends of creation. You are not alone." The age of humanity had begun.